What is up, everybody? I'm Jake Dickinson, and this is the Evolve Your Fitness podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about a little concept I like to call the circle of gains. But before we get into that, if you can look just down below here, like and subscribe, that'll help me out a lot. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, a nice small goal for now, and every single subscriber helps a lot. Anyways, into the topic, the circle of gains. Most people, when we talk to them, they're looking to get more lean. And what do we mean by more lean? Usually what that means is improving their body composition. So they want to get more muscle and have less fat and have the muscle show up beneath the skin more. Generally, when people talk about lean, that's what they mean. You get to see the muscle. I always call it like scraping away the dirt and show the rocks. So this takes two things. One, it takes muscle, and two, it takes reducing how much fat they have. So how do we get into that? There's a bunch of different ways. I have a little concept, though, I like to show people just because it helps people understand how they're sabotaging themselves when they're doing it through different methods, and why sometimes short-term fixes isn't actually what fixes their problem. So I call this a circle of gains. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'm getting crazy fancy here. Sorry, this graphic is not the best. I just made this in about, 15 minutes, and I'm not super tech savvy, but hopefully it'll get the point across. Okay. So let's start at the top. Okay. This is in an ideal scenario. What happens? Okay. You work out, you're right here, and you're working out. I don't know if I don't know if everybody can see my cursor or not. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. Let me double check and see if there's anything on the settings here. Oh, well. So you're at the top with the dumbbell. Okay. That's signifying working out. Okay. Now you come down here to the right, and there's a fire there, but it's kind of a little fire. During that workout, you burn a certain number of calories. All right. But it's kind of minimal. Okay. And on top of that, if you come down here to the muscle, it's all about breaking down the muscle, right? When you work out, it breaks down your muscle fibers, okay? And it burns calories while you're doing it, but it breaks down your muscle fibers. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing, okay? So now we come down here to the plate of food. We eat good food and we sleep well, and that allows our muscles to recover. And when they come back bigger and stronger and capable of doing more work, right? So go to the next, up to the next fire. Okay. That leads to more caloric burn, or increase in your basal metabolic rate, people will say. But really what it means is your body requires more energy to keep it going because it now has more muscle, which means you naturally need more food. Okay. Now from there, we go back up to the dumbbell, and we can now work out harder. Okay. With our bigger muscles, we can now do more work in less time, and work out harder, which comes back down to the small fire, which means we actually burned more calories during that session because we were able to do more work, which leads to our muscles breaking down again. And then ideally we eat and sleep correctly, which leads to bigger muscles. Okay. So this is why people with more muscle mass have an easier time staying lean, is because they, people might see it and they're like, you eat so much, how do you stay lean? To maintain those muscles, they need a lot of calories, and a lot of the correct calories to keep that up. And when you have more muscle, there's just more calories that need to be burned to maintain them. Okay. So let me take you through a different scenario. I call it the spiral of no gains. And this is just going over why sleep and nutrition is so important. If you start at the top again, we have the workout. Okay. Then we go down to the fire. Okay. And remember, this fire is not right. The caloric burn you get during this is small in comparison to everything else that you're going to, other ways you're going to burn calories throughout the day. You lead to a breakdown in muscles. But let's say you're not eating the correct things. You go over here to the muscle, but that never actually builds back up. So you're at best getting back to baseline. The muscles recover, but they didn't grow back bigger and stronger. Usually they actually come back weaker because you didn't recover correctly. We get up here to the fire. We're not actually burning more. Okay. And if they broke down and they're weaker and they're smaller, that's actually the fire now is less. Okay. And then we go to work out. It's harder. We now burn less in our workouts and we break down our muscles again. And then we skip the recovery piece and we come back over to our muscles, smaller, weaker, not recovered. And then we have a smaller or lower basal metabolic rate. And it kind of goes like that. Like this is simplifying it, obviously. But it gets a point across. And then what can really happen bad is you keep breaking them down and not recovering enough. You go back here to working out and you get injured. And now we have a real problem. So, and then you can guess why that does not lead to more gains. And that the two big things here is the sleep and nutrition that everybody always wants to skip out on. They want to show up, work hard. That's the fun stuff. Practice these crazy skills. But at the end of the day, if you're not eating the correct foods, enough protein, and limiting other garbage, or as I like to call it, more protein, less bullshit, you're not going to recover. And if you're not sleeping enough, right? And this is like consistently over time. We all get bad nights of sleep. Something comes up, you have an emergency, but have to work late, kids are sick, whatever it is. There's plenty of times where you might not get one night of good sleep or 2 nights of good sleep, but over time we want to get good solid sleep, and that kind of shifts for everybody. But I would say it's normally between the 7 to 9 hour range for most people. There's been some literature on, there's some people that is like 0.01, which means it's a very low probability that it's you, that people who can survive and even thrive on 4 hours or less. But most people need 7 to 9 to actually be doing, to actually be recovering, putting out their best foot forward at work, everything, right? Everything suffers when you don't sleep. If you want more on that, Dr. Matthew Walker has some good podcasts and a book, I believe, and it can be eye-opening. There's a bunch of things from your risk of cancer to, your ability to remember things, your ability to perform tasks, your ability to recover. Sleep affects them all. Yeah. Anyways, moving on to the food. I have this saying, more protein, less bullshit. And it kind of just simplifies nutrition for me to my members. Because a lot of times people get really geeky with stuff. They're like worried about, the macros or, simple stuff about like different types of, fat that they should use. Is olive oil better or is butter better? Simple stuff like that, but they're still eating candy bars and, not eating enough protein. So first up, protein. We want to be getting 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight or for every lean pound of body weight. Okay. So you take your body weight, and depending on how lean you are, that's approximately how many grams of protein you want to get. Now, you can also, if you can figure out what body fat percentage you have and figure out like what's your lean mass in your body. That's usually better to go off your lean mass. But if you're trying to gain muscle, a lot of times you want to eat for the body weight you don't yet have, or eat for the lean body weight you do not yet have. So you can up it a little bit at that point. And that'll help out a lot. This has also been, there's a bunch of different research on how much you can take in. The low end that I've heard that's effective is 1 gram per kilo of body weight. So a kilo is 2.2 pounds. So that's a little bit lower. And that's only for maintenance. So that's just something to think about. That's on the low end. Everybody's a little bit different. There's a little bit of variance in there, but usually finding somewhere in that range, um, and you'll just be just fine. And then less bullshit. What's less bullshit? Less added sugar. Okay, and I'm not talking about sugar and fruit, right? Everybody's going to be fine eating however much fruit they want. Um, but added sugar, anything, anything they add to juices, the added sugar in your candy bars, um, whatever. Okay. It- we want to cut that down as much as possible. That's usually not helping you in any way, shape, or form. You might see some studies on high level athletes and taking in sugar around their workouts, but they are high level athletes. They're usually already lean. They're not trying to get more lean, and they work out, for their job. Uh, Most of us don't need that. Okay. Less processed foods as well. So anything that doesn't look like it looks when it comes out of the ground, or with within reason, we want to cut those out too. So stuff that's made out of flour, that's usually just a bunch of extra calories hiding. What oatmeal is good, rice is good, potatoes are good, vegetables are obviously good, fruits are obviously good. I don't like to use the word good and bad, but I'm trying to simplify it down. All this is stuff that doesn't have hidden calories in it. That's the problem with the processed foods. A lot of times is what's hiding underneath the surface that you don't know about inside of it. Have they added sugar into your bread to make it taste better, and you're getting extra calories that you don't even realize from it? And also these foods are usually, you're able to overconsume them very easily. And I'm not throwing out any numbers for how many carbohydrates you want to take in for a day, but the more whole foods that you add and the less processed foods you have, the better your diet is going to be from it. Okay. Next up, we have alcohol, right? A lot of times we have people with big goals for whether it's getting muscle ups, clean and jerking more, snatching more, whatever it is, just getting faster in the gym, and then they're sabotaging themselves with drinking 3-4 days a week. Um, any amount of reduction in alcohol is good, right? Alcohol is poison, um, and no amount of alcohol is good for you. But you got to find out what is the balance for you, right? If you want to know more about this, Andrew Huberman does a really good podcast on alcohol and talks about it a lot more in depth than I can. But just know that anytime you can limit it. Usually when you're drinking alcohol, you're usually not eating good foods with it. You usually don't feel so good the next day. So a lot of times um, you don't eat good foods the next day either. And it's really hard on your system. It's a low level poisoning. And I like to drink, but yeah, I just know that it's not at no point is it helping my fitness goals to drink, right? And so everybody's got to find their balance. And then that kind of leads into water. Water's another staple. Getting half your body weight in ounces of water each day is usually a good rule of thumb for that. It'll make you feel more satisfied, more full all the time. It'll make sure you're hydrated, which helps make sure that you're flushing out waste products. If you're working out hard, you're creating a lot of waste products in your muscles, and making sure you're hydrated just helps all that run smoothly. But those are the big, what would I say? Big four, right? You got protein, sugars and processed foods, alcohol, and water. If you can boil it down to those things in particular, you'd be amazed at how much better you both feel and perform. And I think people don't realize how much diet matters. We have people, you're coming in here, you're busting your ass 3 to 5 days per week. But if you're not doing the things on the recovery side, which is the food and the sleep, you're sabotaging yourself when you're at home. And it it's tough to see sometimes because you want people to hit their goals, you want to see people advance and can keep getting better and better, and yeah, the, that makes it hard. Um, you know, to go into why this matters so much, if you gain weight while, say you have some big gymnastics goals, every time you get stronger in the gym, but say you gain a pound over the next week, you now have to be strong enough to overcome that weight that you gained. Um, it's the fat that you have on your body is non-functional mass. It's not helping you perform anything, do anything. I mean, yeah, it doesn't serve a function passing a reasonable amount, right? Um, Obviously, our fat stores are meant to be in there to help us make it through famine and um, probably some sort of warm situation in cold weather. But other than that, right, and that's a limited amount that we need to have on our bodies. It's not going to help you in your fitness goals. So it, that's how that'll hurt your gymnastics. As far as weightlifting, say you're like, oh, I don't care about gymnastics. I don't ever want to do a handstand push-up or climb a rope. That just does not interest me at all. But say you're into weightlifting. While with weightlifting, mass moves mass, and more mass will generally help. The more muscles you build, the better. The more you're going to lift, and you're going to be a lot better off gaining muscles than you are anything else to help you lift. Um, and if your muscles aren't recovering, you won't lift more weights. It's just how it goes. And when you like we went over with the circle of Gainz up here, you break the muscles down, the muscles come back bigger. That means you can lift heavier weights, and the heavier weights then allow your muscles to break down yet again, which allows you to build bigger muscles, which means heavier weights, bigger muscles, and just keeps going round and round. If you don't eat right, you just throw a hitch in the giddy up, as I like to say. Yeah, that's how you can make your weightlifting, your gymnastics, your cardio better. Every time you're doing cardio, say you're doing burpees or anything, the more mass you have, the more energy you have to create, and it's going to make that harder as well. So if you're looking to just be really fit, any extra mass that's not helping you perform a task is just, you're just wasting energy on it. And you're having to move it every single time you do anything. Take a step, do a burpee, do a pull-up, do an air squat. Even when you back squat, you still have to move your weight plus the bar. Okay, so there's two weights happening there. Yeah, that pretty much covers the circle of Gainz. It's a little thing that I've been kind of teaching my clients for years. I haven't gone over it recently. I think it's just super important because a lot of times people they'll lose weight. You hear this all the time. People lose weight, and then their metabolic rate goes down, and then they gain all the weight back, but it's even worse than it was before. And like, why does that happen? And I think it's important for people to explain why that happens, right? If all you do is just starve yourself and don't eat anything, and you lose weight, a lot of times instead of losing just fat, you're going to lose fat and muscle. Okay, so when you lose fat and muscle, now your basal metabolic rate goes down and your caloric needs are down. So even eating the same amount you were before now does not cause you to lose weight anymore because you're no longer in a deficit. And it can, in some instances cause you to gain weight if your basal metabolic rate gets down low enough. So it starts to spiral out of control when you start losing muscle, because then your needs drop. And then you're also, like we said at the start, most people, when they think of being lean, they think of like being able to see their muscles beneath their skin, right? Well, if your muscles get smaller, it's much harder to see them. So then you try to diet down more. It makes it harder to see them yet again. And that's why just cutting your calories and not focusing on what is in the calories that you are consuming is it, is a futile effort. Okay. And when I consider working out too, I think I should go over. I mean, obviously, I think CrossFit is the best, right? Mixture of resistance training and metabolic efforts. I think both of those are important for health and longevity as well. But you could just work out and lift weights. You could just do cardio. Like, just because running is considered a cardio thing, and most people who run get pretty slender, right? That doesn't mean that you're not still making those muscles stronger, right? And that they weren't, like, even if it's the same size leg, it doesn't mean that you didn't change the entire composition of what's happening beneath the surface. There's I wonder if I could pull this up. There's a picture of it's like a 70-year-old marathoner's leg versus like a 70-year-old untrained leg. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Images. There we go. That's not the one. Okay. Sorry, this is probably not the most exciting thing in the world, but let me see if I can pull this up. Just learning how to do all this fancy stuff. So let's remove this. We'll put up oh boy, might have lost it. All right, let me try this one more time. And if it doesn't work, Jacob. I can only imagine what is if I look at the how much people are watching this as this happens. It's probably going down drastically as I look this up, but what can you do? All right. Well, I couldn't find it. I apologize. If you look it up, you can find it super easy. Just type in 70-year-old marathoner leg versus 70-year-old inactive leg. But if you look at it, you can see the huge difference between the amount of muscle mass and fat that's in that leg. And all that muscle mass is stuff that obviously burns more calories, but also helps them in day-to-day activities in life. And that is so important for your health and longevity. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry for wasting your time looking that up. That's my bad. But yeah, that kind of covers everything I plan to cover today. It's a little bit of a shorter one. Yeah. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. Put it in the comments. I'd love to have some Q&A to answer. But that's all I have for you for today. I hope you enjoyed this. And I'm sure someday I'll probably remake this whole thing and do it a little bit better than I did today. So thanks for listening to my early recordings. But yeah, this is Jake with JD Fit. And remember, more protein, less bullshit. Thanks. Bye.